Hello, I'm Joy. You know, over the last couple of years or so, we've all been affected by what's gone on, and there's no doubt about that. And you might disagree, but I would say that most of the time we have been affected in one way or the other, whether it's personally affected or affected by family and friends, about how they've reacted to what's gone on. And still, you know, we are dealing with high prices and all the rest of it that we're finding really difficult to come to terms with. You speak to people and they say, oh, what sort of world are we living in? Particularly older people, you know, they haven't had this. And yeah, okay, they've had some shortages. Certainly in the 60s or 70s, we had bread strikes, we had electricity strikes, you know, so there was all sorts of things that were going on, but not long term, the way that they're doing now. So there's even more reason for people to start looking for therapy and finding solutions that will help them to come to terms with what is going on. I'm not saying accept, but come to terms. So whether you're thinking about training in this particular field, you have to think about who you look for and what you look for as well. Hypnotherapy and certainly NLP, they are not government regulated at all, so there's no real governing body, and so therefore it is independent and self-regulated bodies that will give you a certification, and all the certification that I give to my students can obviously be found online. I know there is a company, I don't know whether they still are doing it, but they certainly were a couple of years ago. They were hiring a room at a university, and so people would think it was naturally attached to the university, although this company, I have to add, did not say on their website this is university accredited, but people would be in the belief, and certainly they said to me, I told people I was going to university. No, they were not. They were going to a room that was hired out by a particular company to learn about hypnosis. They weren't learning NLP, it was just, you know, a few little bits that were thrown in. So consequently, by the time they finished the course, they did not feel confident. So my advice to anybody who was looking for this kind of training is, yes, it's important to see where the accreditation comes from, but even more importantly than that is who is training them. What kind of training have they had in the past? Have they gone through rigorous training themselves to be able to train others? What experience have they had themselves? Have they been in practice? Are they still in practice? So there's lots of things to think about, and obviously to talk to trainers. Certainly if you couldn't find a trainer who was willing to talk to you before you signed up for a course, my advice would be do not go through that training, because maybe they've got different trainers all the time, and so therefore they can't really speak to you. Also, you need to know what aftercare is there once you've qualified. You definitely need supervision. You definitely need somebody that you can throw ideas around, and they will do the same thing with you. If you haven't got a trainer who, once you've qualified, disappears and you can't speak to them again, then I would say do not go to that provider. So there's an awful lot that you're thinking about before you embark on this kind of training. I started one-to-one training some years ago now, 6 years ago, simply because people didn't want to be in groups anymore. They didn't like the dynamics of it. They didn't have time to talk to trainers, and so therefore they often felt alone, or all they could do was talk to their colleagues, and that's not good enough. You really need to talk to trainers about any concerns that you have, anybody that is working with you as a volunteer. So I make sure that all my students have got access to me. I'm not going to say 24/7, but I will go back to them as quickly as possible. So there's just some ideas that you can start looking for when you're looking for this really important training.